Hello, everybody. I'm Gary Walker. Welcome to the WBGO studios. And today, the focus is the tenor saxophone. It
All
got up in
right.
everybody's ears and got headlines with those cutting contests between Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt, Dexter Gordon and
Yeah.
Wardell Gray, Johnny
Oh, yeah.
Griffin and Eddie Lockjaw Davis, or the
Right.
individual expression, technique, and facility, always in the service of
Oh,
expression from people like John Coltrane and Sonny
yeah.
Rollins.
Yeah.
For saxophonist J.D. Allen, home base was Detroit, and then a move
Yeah.
to New York, where he would work with a whole lot of folks. An extended stay with Betty Carter, my dear
Yeah.
friend, Frank
Oh, wow.
Foster, and his big band, Lewis Hayes, Dave Douglas, Cindy Blackman, and so much more. Now, in
Yeah.
2008, he's made a number of recordings, but in 2008, he introduced to the world a trio, and the trio was with bassist Greg August and drummer Rudy Royston. And the recording that they came out with was I Am, and it got all kinds of accolades. And when word of mouth got over to Lorraine Gordon, she gave him a whole week at the
Yeah.
Village Vanguard, and expression was the key. Tunes,
Wow.
they called themselves, well, they were referred to as the three-headed monster. And Lusada and Ezekiel and Pagan showed the way about how collective expression could be. But
Yeah.
introspection was also key to this threesome. And they would prove it later on in 2018 with a recording called Love Stone, with that same threesome with the addition of guitarist Liberty Ellman. And we got Love Stone with gorgeous renditions of Stranger in Paradise and You're My Thrill and Until the Real Thing Comes Along. So bring us to this date, and we return to the scene of the sublime. The brand new recording from J.D. Allen called Love Letters, the Ballad Sessions. And that's what we're going to talk about here
Oh,
today on WBGO. J.D. Allen, welcome to WBGO.
oh,
Once again, you've been here before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is the place to be. And whenever asked to do anything on here, I have to say yes, no matter what's going on. So
Ballads
very
is the
important.
focus here, and it reminds me of a story years ago. Branford Marsalis had put out a recording called Eternal, and
Yeah.
I had a chance to see him perform that over an NJ
Mhm.
Pack. And at
Yeah.
the end of the night, I went up to him and I said, "Man, that version of Gloomy Sunday was one of the most beautiful pieces of
Yeah.
saxophone I think I've ever seen." And his response to me was, "Wow, that only took 20 years. I'm going to go home and gloat." JD, what is it about the ballad performance uh,
Mm.
that brings to mind expression and introspection? What makes it difficult? You know, Bramford said it took him 20 years to sound like
Mm.
that.
Mm. Oh, what makes it difficult? I think in my opinion, I believe there's for lack of a better, well, that's not a bad thing to say. I think there's a level of vulnerability that you have to be willing to show to some or to express to someone that is listening to you in terms of usually the tempo of the piece calls for there's no place to run in a ballad. You know, at least that's what I was told when I was growing up in Detroit. You had to be able to play two things growing up in our home state. They said you got to be able to play the blues and you got to be able to play a ballad, especially a ballad for tenor saxophones. You know, because people get a chance to hear your sound and the tempo and the pace of the piece that you're performing slows down and it reveals itself. So to do that as an artist, as a musician, at least in my opinion, that means you have to be vulnerable and willingness to stand in front of the world uh, with no clothes on and not be afraid of what is being seen and be a certain vulnerability to say, hey, I'm allowing you to see who I am. At least that's what I think.
Sure,
You know,
and you
that's
also have to be quite patient, don't you?
absolutely, which vulnerability encompasses that word. That's a very important word, vulnerability, patience.
And patience is key, man. That's why,
Yeah,
not every running back is is as fluid as Barry Sanders, man. Because
true.
When Barry ran for the Lions, man, he had patience,
He had
and
patience.
he could
Absolutely.
dart, but then you'd see him pause, and
Yeah.
he'd go another way, and
Yeah.
he'd end
Yeah.
up with
Yeah.
30 yards instead of 3 yards.
Exactly. He paused to assess the situation and made it appropriate. You know, that pause could be a second in one term, but in another universe, that was probably a lifetime just to be able to see what was coming from. Yeah, I agree. That's a good analogy.
Now, on Love Letters, the ballad sessions, it opens up with the tune that, if you're a Coltrane and Johnny Hartman fan, certainly you know,
Mhm.
"You Are Too Beautiful." And you chose that track to open up
Yes.
with, and it's just gorgeous. Talk about the people in your quartet.
Okay. Yeah. For this particular outing, I used two gentlemen that I've used for the past few records. Ian Kinsler for acoustic bass and Nick Cachopo on drums. And this time we invited Brandon McCoon, who also joined us for a Christmas thing we did prior to this recording coming out. And I felt he was a great. I love piano, but I felt for him to have him in particular, the fact that he played with vocalists was something that I was looking for. So when I at the session, I said, "If can you play for me as if I'm a singer?" And I know he has the ability to do that, playing with quite a few
Yeah, and I
great
was going to
vocalists
bring
and so.
and I was going to bring it up, man, because both of you
Mm,
uh, spent time with Betty Carter,
absolutely,
and
yeah,
Brandon also spent time with Abby Lincoln, and patience
yeah,
was key there. And I'm sure you gleaned a lot of that from
yeah,
your extended stay with Betty Carter, right?
absolutely, absolutely, yes, yes. So having him on board was one less direction that I had to give to for one of the participants in the recording. And I think he's one of my favorite pianists, you know, and he did just that. He supported me as if I was a vocalist, because that's how I tried to look at myself during this recording, as a vocalist, you know. So
And
that
you're
was
right.
important.
You're right about the saxophone, and you gotta know the story in order to
Oh yeah,
extrapolate and to
absolutely.
share the music contained within. I get
Hmm.
along without you very well,
Yeah,
except when there's a rain or when I hear your name. Maybe I should
absolutely.
call you. Nah, just stick to the tune.
Yeah, yeah. You stick to my thing. Yeah, that part,
Just stick to
that
the
part.
tune, man.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just a gorgeous display
Oh,
of the
thank you.
four of you together. And the same with "Don't Go to Strangers."
Yeah, yeah. I love that song. Yeah, play with fires till your fingers burn. Woo, what a line.
What did you learn from Betty Carter working with her?
Wow, what didn't I learn? Well, I think, well, first and foremost for her, she wanted us, you know, that was a school in particular. You know, a lot of us that had played with her, we are part of a unique family in a sense. And I remember once I asked her, I think Dolly the Dolly the lamb had just been cloned. We were in the airport watching it on TV. I said, Miss Carter, if you could be cloned, what would you do? She said, I would keep on swinging. She said, just keep on swinging. She said, and she stressed, at least to me, maybe some other people around, that it was important that we keep swinging, and how important that was to not give that up and to pass information on about it to people under us. You know, it was the oral tradition was important to her, and just how to run a band, you know, and don't be afraid to ask for what you need. And if when you're working with someone, our job, like she told us, she said our job was to make her sound great, you know. So it was, she was very involved in what was going on around what she was doing. So that was a great school to be involved with, and most importantly, keep swinging.
Yeah,
When
and
she told me that, and the seriousness to what she said to me, I never forgot that. She said, "I would just keep on swinging." She said, "Keep on swinging, no matter what. It's important, you know."
even inside a ballad, and
Absolutely, most
you had
important.
you had to
Yeah,
really pay attention when
yeah,
when Betty was doing a ballad. Kenny Washington
yeah,
always said, "Man, don't go to sleep in the middle of
yeah.
a ballad because you'll lose your place."
Yeah, and you know, playing with her was the first time during the ballads. Every time we played somewhere, there was always someone who was weeping, who connected with her on the ballad. There was never not a time when she sang the ballad, this ballad, that someone in the audience wasn't really moved enough to openly express weeping. So seeing that as at a 21-year-old, seeing the, with the, because it would be so slow, seeing the power, how she was able to not only captivate the room with her prowessness with swinging and tempos, but the ballad, she was able to take the whole air out of the room and make everyone focus in on their hearts and what the lyrics were saying to them and express that. That was beautiful
And
to
you
see
guys
that.
have all done that on this new recording that's just come
We
out. You
certainly tried.
continue
Yeah.
your association with the Savant record label, Love Letters,
Mhm.
the Ballad sessions. And my buddy is kind of a real nice, easy swinging 4/4 kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I remember, when Houston Person and Etta Jones used to do that tune together in
Yeah.
performance, and it was just magic. But
Yeah.
Cole Porter's "I Love You," and I
Hmm.
and I love the way these tunes, as they move toward the end of the tune,
Hmm.
in some instances, they just kind of fade out.
Yeah. Okay. So you
Like
caught
I
that. I'm
like
glad
I
you
love
caught
you. It just kind of fades out. You get it. I love you. Enough
that.
said.
Yeah, yeah, and then it
Right?
goes on, and you add on with your imagination how it could have ended. I'm glad you caught that. Thank you for listening.
No, it's
Yeah,
gorgeous, man. And then you got Hoagie Carmichael. There's a couple of Carmichael tracks on this record, but Stardust ends
yeah,
with just Brandon
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end with
yeah,
the
yeah.
piano.
Who actually plays the verse? You know, he plays the melody of the verse because I don't actually quote. I don't actually play the melody as is written, but I do quote at the end of it, "My Stardust melody." Then it goes into the verse. You know, if you know, I know you know the lyrics. You know, it's supposed to be kind of a thing, and he plays the actual verse. So that worked. I love that song. That's one of my favorite. To hear Betty Carter's version is amazing, but
Oh,
that's one of my favorite songs. I'm so in love with Stardust. I think it's a masterpiece, the
we're
lyrics and notes.
yeah, you bet, man. J.D. Allen, Love Letters, the Ballad Sessions, and he just referred to words and music. And the final track on this record was actually written by Brandon, and it's
Yeah,
called Tell the Story.
tell the story. Yeah, yeah. And then a story you can find when you read, when you look at the titles and just visually looking at it, that actually is a story in itself. That's kind of how I set it up. So to tell the story was a part of, kind of a little inner not joke, but just an inner dialogue with myself, how I wanted to be visually looked at, and that title and mood of that song fit the bill in terms of ending the album.
J.D. Allen takes not a different step, but a new step, a return to the ballad book. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a cat that over the course of his years has really pushed the envelope in many settings. In fact, it was described that people loved his fearless approach to a formidable tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Right.
speaks volumes for what you've done in the past on record and in performance for that matter.
Oh, thank you.
But I got to tell you, man, this ballad sessions. Well, we got a taste with Lovestone, right? 7 years ago,
Yeah,
we got a taste with
yeah,
Lovestone, and here we are again today with Love Letters, the ballad
yeah.
sessions. Was it easy to narrow this down to 8 stories to tell?
No, it wasn't easy. I kind of attribute playing ballads or standards as if an actor who's probably known on screen going back to theater in a sense. You go back to the theater, and maybe you pick a piece that's well known, or you act a piece that's read like Shakespeare, who's very well known, and then you see where you stand after maybe going here and there, and you can go back to the theater and either brush up or see where you're at. But I attributed it as me just stepping back into form in a sense, and weighing where I'm at this point. So it was a necessity, and I also had an opportunity to speak with some DJs, and it was very informative having conversations. I didn't realize. I mean, I knew you guys love the music, but like to speak and to listen to them, their take on some of the things I've done. And I kind of did it for them too. Like, all right, man, this is for y'all, just dig and play, because I had a conversation in January of this year that really informed me. Hey man, give us something that we can play, like we did, but like something for the people. So I kept that in mind. I said, okay, maybe it's time to step back on theater and pick some pieces where I have to see what I weigh and where I am. So that's
I get it.
how I look at that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
get it,
situation with
man. I
ballads and
get it.
things like that.
Now,
It's important.
so many of our young players today, the ones
Mm-hmm.
coming up, they seem to not acknowledge, or they're afraid of, or they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to venture into that realm of expression that requires more breath,
Mm-hmm.
more space.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I've been that myself. I mean, maybe that's where they are at their point in life, at that particular point in life, and that's cool too. I like to think having the opportunity to have played with Betty Carter, Frank Foster, and some people that when I came to New York, who were fortunate enough were around and fortunate enough to hire me to be in a band that wasn't in my band. So I had someone to tell me, like, hey man, you need to, like Betty Carter used to say, play more in the lower register of your horn, and think about your sound. I think, to no fault of the youth's own, there aren't a lot of bands to be involved with, so they're forced to make their own bands, and go about it. So I believe that my generation, and maybe a generation that's older, we owe it to them to hire them, and give them the opportunity to gain, both of us. It could be an exchange. We learn from them and they learn from us. So they're doing what they have to do, and a lot of it is pretty remarkable. I'm learning from younger people, much like Miss Carter always made a point of being around younger people to see what's happening and gain and exchange, But they'll get to it. Yeah, you hang on long enough, life does that to you, It's like this a poem that I like. It's called The Autobiography in 5 Chapters by
Huh.
Portia Nelson, where she talks about a hole she sees, she falls in, and by the time she gets to the 5th chapter, she sees the hole, but just decides to go down another street. It's a process of learning. When you learn as a person, grow as a person, the music should reflect that. Not that they're not developed. It's just at this point in time, I imagine, being younger myself, that's where they are. And if they're documenting where they are, then it's valid because that's truth. So
I get that, and sometimes it takes a long time. Like I go back to
yeah,
what Branford told me. He says,
yeah,
"Wow,
exactly.
that only took me 20 years to do
Yeah,
that."
yeah,
To
yeah,
come up with that sound that
yeah,
was so magnificent on Eternal, and that
yeah.
same kind of sound is apparent throughout Love Letters, the
Oh,
ballad
thank you.
sessions.
Yeah, and thanks to
The
Branford for being so kind enough to throughout the years to talk to me. Like, I mean, if there's any kind of sound, I've talked to Branford about what I should do a lot of times, and so he told me something years ago, and now it makes sense right now, and I find myself doing a lot of things I learned years ago that I didn't think I needed to do when I was younger. Now that I'm younger, I want to do them.
Well, and it's just like, Branford learned from people like, Art Blakey.
Absolutely,
Like Art
that's the
Blakey, there's that
tradition.
story where, they're on the bus and Blakey, Branford
Yeah, I know
walks
what you're
past it,
talking about.
and Blakey goes, "Man, what are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm doing this Gershwin tune, man. I'm trying to listen. George Gershwin does not need your help to make
Yeah,
his tune any better."
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard that story. He told me that,
And that
and
kind of shines. That
again,
kind of
making ourselves available to a younger generation, being willing to learn from them, and we share with them, is very important, And so hopefully, I'm doing my bit and giving up any information, and also asking from a younger generation what's going on, so it could be reciprocity and learning. So that's where it is. They'll get to it. Yeah, they'll get to it. Hang in
Yeah,
there.
a conversation is a two-way street, man.
Absolutely,
And this street
absolutely.
today is with saxophonist J.D. Allen. We're talking about Love Letters, the Ballad Sessions. It's just out now on the Savant record label.
Mhm.
Any chance of us seeing this group perform some of this music live upcoming?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I've only done one concert where I played. Well, this was during Love Stone, where I played all ballads. I was so afraid to do it, but it worked, and so I would be open to doing that. Absolutely, performing just the pieces off of this or any ballad, just making it strictly for lovers of all kinds situation.
Yes, indeed. Now, when you did those ballads, what was it that you were afraid of?
When I did, oh well, again, vulnerability, expectations. Will I show at that time? Will I show what I can do? Will it be exciting? But we did it, and I was just shocked that it seemed to go over. Like you mentioned, the Vanguard, right? The only reason I got the gig from Mrs. Gordon, she said, as long as you play a ballad, you can do whatever you want. That's what she told me. She said, as long as you play a ballad, you can come here and play anytime you want. She was hiring me so much for the Vanguard that I stopped. I had to turn it down because it was embarrassing. It was like not a lot of people coming out. But she said, no, as long as you play a ballad, you could do anything. And most times people come up and they'll say, hey, I don't know what the other stuff you did, but I really like the ballads. So ballads are very important in my book. It kind of gives the band a chance to rest and it gives the people a chance to reset and connect in a way. So to do a whole concert like that, I only did it once. It was something that I had to try, but I think I would be open to trying that again, or maybe just rolling down that block for a moment, or maybe I might have a fancy to do something else. I try to keep it really open and paint different colors that are related in a way, because this is related to the last two in a sense, in a different kind of way. But I wouldn't mind doing a couple gigs or a whole year of just playing
When
playing things that I love. And, you know.
When Lorraine came out with the book Alive at the
Oh yeah,
Village
I read it.
Vanguard, I
Yeah,
went down to the Vanguard one afternoon and I interviewed her about the book.
yeah.
And then I had her read maybe a half a dozen excerpts from the book.
Wow, wow.
And at the end, she goes, "How many more of these you want?" I said, "Well, just a couple more."
Yeah, yeah,
So when we were done, I said, "Will you autograph this book for me?" Because it was my copy of the book.
yeah.
She took a pen and she wrote, "To Gary Walker, the only man who ever wore me out."
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's priceless.
Oh man,
A
she was
great, and it was a great book, though. I read it too. I got to autograph mine also. I didn't know that she was, oh man, responsible for a lot of things. I'm not sure people quite understand, like, being Thelonious Monk's publicist at one time and, really deep, really
she was
deep.
like his interpreter when he first went to the Blue
Yeah,
Note record label because you
true.
talk about somebody who wasn't afraid of
Yeah,
silence. That was
yeah.
Thelonious Monk because he'd walk in the room and sit down and wouldn't say a word.
Yeah, she told me some stories about him. She told a lot of stories, and even her political activism with Barbara Streisand. Like it was a lot. Just reading that book was so informative, and meeting her and talking, going down there in the afternoon and having conversations with her was it's right up there, man. With meeting Mr. Rollins or working with Betty Carter or Jerry Allen, it's up there for me. And she was
Yeah,
so kind to just tell me to have me there. But she says, as long as you play a ballad, you can do whatever you want. So I had
that's
to play
those
a ballad
moments,
every
man.
step.
That's those moments that return to
Yeah,
inform and influence everything we do. I mean, I still think about,
absolutely.
the week I spent with
Mm.
Frank and Cecilia Foster at their home in Virginia.
Wow.
And I mean, it was, you can imagine. I mean, you worked with Uncle Frank, man.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it was just you walk in that living room and it's like, what's that photograph from? It's time for dinner. Yeah, okay, just a minute.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Frank's telling me all these great stories, man. And by the
Wow.
way, Frank was in Detroit
I know.
when he ran into somebody who told him, Count Basie's looking for you.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and he was on the street in Detroit. And I can't
Oh,
remember
wow.
the
It was like
musician.
that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't remember the musician that came up to him and said, "Hey, Frank,
Yeah.
Bill Basie's looking for you."
Wow.
Really?
Wow. What a great musician, a great leader. And I can't it's so weird to not weird, but it's almost magical that I saw him and was around him. All these people, like just I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. They really were kind. I was like,
Well, and you know what
they
they
were really
imparted to
kind.
you? They expect you to continue
Absolutely.
to tell the story.
Yeah, yeah. And to be open and to letting people in, to have people there to tell a story to,
Yeah,
our comrades, our younger comrades. And sometimes it's not even notes. That's what I'm learning. It's not even about music. It's just sometimes it's just telling people, hey, hang in there, you can do it, or just a word of encouragement, or hey, this is to be expected, but if you hang in there, it gets. But sometimes it's that. I know it's been that for me. Maybe it wasn't a lesson where I got notes, but it was a lesson on life. Which is you got to have a story to tell.
there
So
you go. Well, you tell quite
hey,
a story on this new recording
I
of
certainly try.
Love
I
Letters, the
try.
ballad sessions. What would you like to do next that you haven't done?
Well, now I'm venturing. Yeah, I'm reaching far, and I'm thankful for the record company. They let me try things. Not is that they don't let me. I've never gotten any pushback on any kind of
Barney
idea
Fields
I was
is
thinking.
great, and
Yeah,
I know
no, that's their family.
you knew his daddy Joe Fields.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Oh
Joe
man,
Fields,
that could be a book in itself.
when I moved to New
Oh,
York in
yeah,
1982, Joe
yeah,
Fields was the only person in New York that I knew.
yeah.
I
Oh,
went to see him and we went to lunch and I'll never forget it, man. Just a
yeah,
great presence. But
yeah.
what are you looking to do
Well, I'm
upcoming?
planning on recording the album in Morocco, actually, with a female, one of the first female Gnawa singers. So I'm doing something with Gnawas, and I'm thinking about how I want it to feel. So I'm in the process of hearing and seeing the album before we record it, and so I'm. You got the language barrier. You got. What is swing, or how can we find a common ground to make music together? So I've been studying things about Ganawa music and things like that, and the drummer is going to be from Cuba, pianist is from Venezuela. There's a Moroccan bass player. There's me. There's a Ganawa singer with the gimbre. So there's all these components that we
Wow.
have to figure. I have to figure out how we can put it together. So we'll be recording that in January in Morocco, Rabat, in Rabat. And so we're gonna
Oh
spend a
man.
few
Well,
days and put it
that
together.
feel came together for Randy Weston and Billy Harper together
Absolutely.
in years
Yeah.
past. I have no
Yeah.
doubt it's going to come together for JD Allen. Thank
Yeah.
you
I'm
for
certainly gonna
coming here
try.
today, man. This has just been
Hey man,
really
this has been
great.
a blast, man, and to connect how we connected with on our own home turf in Michigan, talking about it. That I felt even more comfortable. I was like, this is a homeboy. So, hey
There you
man,
go.
forever,
Good,
forever united, man,
good to
forever. Yeah,
talk to you today. Once again,
likewise.
Love Letters, the Ballad Sessions, a must listen.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
With a good friend or by yourself, man. You'll dig it. I guarantee
Oh,
it.
cool. Thank
JD
you.
Allen, thank you, man.
Thank you. Thanks, brother. All right.
More
Goodbye. See
soon.
you later.
All right, man.